Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Hare Krishna. This morning we are reading from Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita, Adi Lila, Chapter 9, The Desire Tree of Devotional Service, Text 10. Jaya Shri Madhava Puri Krishna Prema Pura. Bhakti Kalpa Tarurate Ho Prathama Ankura. Jaya Shri Madhava Puri Krishna Prema Pura. Bhakti Kalpa Tarurate Ho Prathama Ankura. Jaya Shri Madhava Puri Krishna Prema Pura. Bhakti Kalpa Tarurate Ho Prathama Ankura. Matajis. Word for meaning. Jaya, all glories. Shri Madhavapuri unto Madhvendrapuri. Krishna Prema Pura, a storehouse of all love of Godhead. Bhakti Kalpatarura, of the desire tree of devotional service. Teho, he is. Prathama, first. Ankura, fructification. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Madhavendra Puri, the storehouse of all devotional service unto Krishna. He is a desire tree of devotional service, and it is in him that the seed of devotional service first fructified. Purport. Sri Madhavendra Puri, also known as Sri Madhav Puri, belonged to the disciplic succession from Madhvacharya and was a greatly celebrated sannyasi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the third disciplic descendant from Sri Madhavendra Puri. The process of worship in the disciplic succession of Madhvacharya was full of ritualistic ceremonies with hardly a sign of love of Godhead. Sri Madhavendra Puri was the first person in that disciplic succession to exhibit the symptoms of love of Godhead, and the first to write a poem beginning with the words, Ai Dina Dayadra Natha, O Supremely Merciful Personality of Godhead. In that poem is the seed of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cultivation of love of Godhead. So I'll just read the next verse and translation purport also. Shri Ishwara Puri Rupe Ankura Pushta Hoila Apane Chaitanya Mali Skanda Upajila. The seed of devotional service next fructified in the form of Shri Ishwara Puri, and then the gardener himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, became the main trunk of the tree of devotional service. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Shri Ishwar Puri was a resident of Kumarhatta, where there is now a railroad station known as Kamarhatta. Nearby there is another station named Halisara, which belongs to the Eastern Railway. This railway runs from the eastern section of Calcutta. Ishwar Puri appeared in a Brahmana family and was the most beloved disciple of Srila Madhvendra Puri. In the last portion of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Anti-Lila 8.28 to 31, it is stated, Ishwara Puri Gosai Kare Shripada Sevana Swahaste Karana Mala Mutradi Marjana Nirantara Krishna Nama Karaya Smarana Krishna Nama Krishna Lila Shunaya Anukshana Tushna Hoy Puri Tare Koila Alingana Varadila Krishna Tumar Hoka Premadhana Sei Haite Ishwara Puri Premera Sagara. At the last stage of his life, Sri Madhvendra Puri became an invalid and was completely unable to move. And Ishwar Puri so completely engaged himself in his service that he personally cleaned up his stool and urine. Always chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and reminding Sri Madhvendra Puri about the pastimes of Lord Krishna in the last stage of his life, Ishwar Puri gave the best service among his disciples. Thus Madhvendra Puri, being very pleased with him, blessed him, saying, My dear boy, I can only pray to Krishna that he will be pleased with you. Thus Ishwar Puri, by the grace of his spiritual master Sri Madhvendra Puri, became a great devotee in the ocean of love of Godhead. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti states in his Gurvashtak prayer, Yasya prasadat bhagavad prasado yasya prasada na gati kutopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one is blessed by the mercy of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. It is by the mercy of the spiritual master that one becomes perfect, as vividly exemplified here. A Vaishnav is always protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if he appears to be an invalid, this gives a chance to his disciples to serve him. Ishwar Puri pleased his spiritual master by service, and by the blessings of his spiritual master, he became such a great personality that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted him as a spiritual master. Srila Ishwar Puri was the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but before initiating Lord Chaitanya, he went to Navadvip and lived for a few months in the house of Gopinath Acharya. At that time, Lord Chaitanya became acquainted with him, and it is understood that he served Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by reciting his book Krishna Lilamrit. This is explained in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat ISKCON Chapter 11. To teach others by example how to be a faithful disciple of one's spiritual master, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, visited the birthplace of Ishwar Puri at Kumarhatta and collected some earth from his birth site. This he kept very carefully, and he used to eat a small portion of it daily. This is stated in Chaitanya Bhagavat ISKCON Chapter 17. It has now become customary for devotees following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go there and collect some earth from that place. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So today is a very auspicious day of the appearance and disappearance of various acharyas and deities. So we'll try to make a humble attempt to discuss on some of these pastimes with the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas. Many senior Vaishnavas present over here sincerely seek their blessings so that we can discuss these wonderful pastimes as given by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and other acharyas. So today is the appearance day of Srila Madhvendra Puri. It's also the appearance of SriSriRadhaRaman Deities of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. It is also the disappearance day of Parmeshwari Das Thakur. And it is also the appearance day of Srila Srinivas Acharya. And Lord Krishna's swing and water pastimes. So we'll try to briefly discuss on these various acharyas and especially try to learn some important lessons for our own application in devotional service. The pastimes of Madhvendra Puri we hear many times, especially the Chandan Yatra pastimes and Madhvendra Puri's his great enthusiasm to fulfill the desires and instructions of the Supreme Lord. Today we would like to discuss the life of Srila Madhvendra Puri from a slightly different angle, especially trying to understand the immense and very special contribution of Srila Madhvendra Puri in our sampradaya, that is the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. As in the text 10, Srila Prabhupada writes, or the verse says, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Jai Shri Mahadava Puri Krishna Prema Pura Bhakti Kalpatarura Teho Prathama Ankura. So he is the Krishna Prema Pura, that means he is a storehouse of love of God. And he is the Ankura, the first sprout of Bhakti Kalpatarura, of the desire tree of devotional service. And as Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, that the process of worship in the disciplic succession of Madhvacharya was full of ritualistic ceremonies with hardly a sign of love of Godhead. Sri Madhvendra Puri was the first person in that disciplic succession to exhibit the symptoms of love of Godhead and the first to write a poem beginning with the words Ai Dina Daradranatha. So, Sri Madhvendra Puri is the first personality who introduced love of Godhead and especially love in Madhurya Ras in our Sampradaya. Of course, in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, the worship of Lord Krishna was definitely going on. But then as Srila Prabhupada is saying that mostly the worship was with rules and regulations, rituals, in awe and reverence. But there was hardly any exhibition of ecstatic love of God. That was practically absent in the Sampradaya. Srila Madhvendra Puri himself is described as a kalpataru, a desire-fulfilling tree in the spiritual world. And as a desire-fulfilling tree in the spiritual world, Srila Madhvendra Puri, he had the access to the most intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world. As we know, in the spiritual world, there are the most intimate 8 Sakhis, the Ashta Sakhis, who serve Radha and Krishna. And assisting the Ashta Sakhis are the various Manjiris. Only these very intimate confidential associates are allowed into the most confidential pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So hardly anyone has access. But the Kalpavrikshas who are present over there, they are witness to the pastimes because the pastimes are happening under them. So therefore, the Kalpavrikshas get to witness the most intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And so Srila Madhvendra Puri is one such Kalpavriksha who witnesses the most intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Golok Vrindavan, and thus he is described as an embodiment of pure love of Godhead. And then when Srila Madhvendra Puri came into this world to participate in the pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then he exhibited this pure love of Godhead. And he introduced this within our Sampradaya. And that pure Krishna Prem was carried ahead by Srila Madhvendra Puri's disciples, especially Srila Ishwara Puri. And then Ishwara Puri then gave that pure Krishna Prem to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani, but still within this pastime, we see that Srila Madhvendra Puri in disciplic succession introduces that concept of Krishna Prem in pure love and especially the Madhurya Prem to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Srila Madhvendra Puri, how he is the embodiment of pure love, especially the love in separation, Virha Bhav, is exhibited or exemplified by his poem, as Srila Prabhupada is saying, is quoting here, Ai Deena Daradranatha. So, regarding this poem, Srila Prabhupada is describing in the Madhya Lila, chapter 4, Sri Madhvendra Puri's devotional service, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is describing the devotional service of Srila Madhvendra Puri. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself is describing the wonderful devotional service of Madhvendra Puri. So this is chapter 4, text 189. To test the intense love of Madhvendra Puri, Gopal, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ordered him to bring sandalwood from Nilachal. And when Madhvendra Puri passed this examination, the Lord became very merciful to him. Such behavior exhibited in loving service between the devotee and the devotee's lovable object Sri Krishna is transcendental. It is not possible for a common man to understand. Common men do not even have the capacity. After saying this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read the famous verse of Madhvendra Puri. That verse is just like the moon. It has spread illumination all over the world. Text 192. Continuous rubbing increases the aroma of Malaya sandalwood. Similarly, consideration of this verse increases one's understanding of its importance. Text 193. As the Kaustubh Mani is considered the most precious of valuable stones, this verse is similarly considered the best of poems dealing with the mellows of devotional service. We'll recite text 194. ए श्लोक कहिया चेन राधा ठाकुरानी तार कृपाय स्फुरिया चे माधवेंद्र वाणी. Actually, this verse was spoken by Srimati Radharani herself, and by her mercy only was it manifest in the words of Madhavendra Puri. Text 195. Kiba Gaura Chandra iha kare aswadana iha aswadite ara nahi chauta jana. Only Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has tasted the poetry of this verse. No fourth man is capable of understanding it. So that means only three people could understand this verse, and that is Srimati Radharani, who originally spoke it, Sri Madhavendra Puri, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Only they are capable of understanding the purport of this verse. So then what can we understand? Right. So it's practically impossible for us to understand. But still, we are reading this verse, and we will read Srila Prabhupada's purport, because only through the mercy of the Acharyas we can get some glimpse of the understanding. But we are reading this just to understand the special contribution of Srila Madhavendra Puri within our Sampradaya. For that purpose, we are trying to understand this verse, so that we also understand in correct perspective, in a correct philosophical perspective, the glory of our own Sampradaya, and especially the glory of the parampara which we belong to. Okay. Text 196. Sheshakale e shloka patite patite siddhi prapti hoila purira shlokera sahite. Madhavendra Puri recited this verse again and again at the end of his material existence. Okay, so we read about that in a previous purport. Prabhupada is speaking about Madhavendra Puri's passing away. Of course, today is appearance day, but still we are discussing this pastime because, anyways, for a Vaishnava, appearance, disappearance, not a big difference. But then he recited this verse again and again as he was passing away from this world. Thus, uttering this verse, he attained the ultimate goal of life. Text 197. Ai dina daradranatha he mathuranatha kadavalokyase hridayam tvad aloka kataram dayita bhramyati kim karomi aham. O my Lord, O most merciful Master, O Master of Mathura, when shall I see you again? Because of my not seeing you, my agitated heart has become unsteady. O most beloved one, what shall I do now? Purport. The uncontaminated devotees who strictly depend on the Vedanta philosophy are divided into 4 sampradayas or transcendental parties. Out of the 4 sampradayas, the Sri Madhvacharya Sampradaya was accepted by Madhavendra Puri. Thus he took sannyas according to parampara, the disciplic succession. Beginning from Madhvacharya down to the spiritual master of Madhavendra Puri, the Acharya named Lakshmipati, there was no realization of devotional service in conjugal love. Sri Madhavendra Puri introduced the conception of conjugal love for the first time in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, and this conclusion of the Madhvacharya Sampradaya was revealed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he toured southern India and met the Tattvavadis who supposedly belonged to the Madhvacharya Sampradaya. When Sri Krishna left Vrindavan and accepted the kingdom of Mathura, Srimati Radharani, out of ecstatic feelings of separation, expressed how Krishna can be loved in separation. Thus, devotional service in separation is central to this verse. Worship in separation is considered by the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya to be the topmost level of devotional service. According to this conception, the devotee thinks of himself as very poor and neglected by the Lord. Thus he addresses the Lord as Dina Dayadra Natha, as did Madhvendra Puri. Such an ecstatic feeling is the highest form of devotional service. Because Krishna had gone to Mathura, Srimati Radharani was very much affected, and she expressed herself thus, "My dear Lord, because of your separation, my mind has become overly agitated. Now tell me, what can I do? I am very poor and you are very merciful. So kindly have compassion upon me and let me know when I shall see you." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always expressing the ecstatic emotions of Srimati Radharani that she exhibited when she saw Uddhav at Vrindavan. Similar feelings experienced by Madhvendra Puri are expressed in this verse. Therefore, Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya say that the ecstatic feelings experienced by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his appearance came from Sri Madhvendra Puri through Ishvara Puri. All the devotees in the line of Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya accept these principles of devotional service. Please note the last line of the purport. All the devotees in the line of the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya accept these principles of devotional service. And in the next verse it says, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recited this verse, he immediately fell to the ground unconscious. He was overwhelmed and had no control over himself. So the important point to note here is that this topmost relationship of Krishna with his most intimate devotees, the gopis, in Madhurya Prem, was exhibited by Srila Madhvendra Puri, and it came down in disciplic succession through Ishvara Puri to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us. Anarpita charim chirat, what has not been offered for a very long time in this material world. Anarpita charim chirat karunaya avatina kalau samarpyutam unnata ujjvala rasa swa bhakti shriyam. So this unnata ujjvala rasa, that is Madhurya Prem, has been offered after a very, very long time out of the causeless mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Unnata ujjvala rasa. And this verse is exemplifying that Unnata ujjvala rasa. Therefore, it has been described that just like there is the Kaustubh money, which is the most precious amongst precious stones, similarly this verse is considered to be like a most precious stone, exhibiting this love in separation, the Madhurya Ras. That is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give us, and that is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving within our Sampradaya. And so therefore, all the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Prabhupada says here, have the access to this Madhurya Prem. Simply by following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Parampara, one gets access to this topmost rasa of Madhurya Prem. Many times, or not many times, sometimes, even devotees feel that the topmost has not been offered by Srila Prabhupada within our movement. And some devotees feel that we need to go somewhere else, to some other institution, to get the topmost. But that is only a myth, because here it is very clearly established, as Prabhupada says here, all the devotees in the line of the Gaudiya Madhva Sampradaya accept these principles of devotional service. All the devotees within the Sampradaya have access to this Madhurya Prem simply by following the instructions of the Guru Parampara. Therefore, by following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Parampara, and for us specifically, following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada in Parampara, we have the access to this Madhurya Prem. Of course, whether we are going to actually get it or not, that of course depends on how sincerely and seriously we follow the instructions of the Parampara. That is needless to say. But the fact still remains that as members of ISKCON, as members of this disciplic succession beginning from Madhvendra Puri and coming through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we all have access to this topmost rasa of Madhurya Prem that has been introduced by Srila Madhvendra Puri. That is the glory of our Sampradaya. That is the speciality of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sampradaya, which has the special flavor of Madhurya Ras coming from Srila Madhvendra Puri. This is unavailable in any of the other Vaishnava Sampradayas. And therefore, we should understand how fortunate we are to be in this Sampradaya of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because this Sampradaya is offering something very, very special. And of course, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes only once in a day of Brahma. And so, it is described in the Bhagavatam that even the demigods in the heavenly planets are waiting in line to take birth in this Kali Yuga on the earth planet. Because this topmost Madhurya Ras is available so easily or comparatively so easily in this current age of Kali Yuga. If the demigods are waiting to take birth, how fortunate we are who have already taken birth. We have already taken birth in this Kali Yuga, and especially within this 10,000 years golden period where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has introduced this topmost Madhurya Ras, which is available simply by the sincere and offenseless chanting of the holy names Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada was very emphatic on this point that there is no need to go anywhere else to get the topmost realizations of devotional service. The topmost realizations of devotional service are available right here within our society, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, as His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj would repeatedly say, one of the instructions that he received from Srila Prabhupada was, never leave ISKCON. Because right here within ISKCON, the topmost realizations of devotional service are available, if we have faith in these facts. And so we find Srila Prabhupada himself within his purports has also emphasized this fact that how devotees can simply remain within ISKCON and practice devotional service and get this highest realization. In the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami, in the Madhya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, 19th chapter, text 157 purport, Srila Prabhupada so emphatically declares this, that he says that even if you think there are only pseudo-devotees or non-devotees within our society, still one must stick to the society. That obviously is not a fact, that there are pseudo-devotees and non-devotees. But even if one thinks so, even if one thinks that most devotees are neophytes and they are not worth associating with, Srila Prabhupada says, still one must stick to the society, still one must remain within the society. If one thinks others are neophytes, one can associate with one's own spiritual master and take instructions from him. To this degree, Srila Prabhupada gives emphasis to this fact that one simply needs to remain within ISKCON as far as we devotees are concerned and practice devotional service. There is nothing lacking within our society. The topmost Krishna Prem in Madhurya Ras that was introduced by Srila Madhavendra Puri is available to the sincere followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Parampara. And therefore, also in the 4th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th chapter, verse number 11 purport, Srila Prabhupada there also emphatically declares that anyone who thinks he can practice devotional service outside this society, that is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is simply living in a hallucination. It is impossible. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada has given these instructions to us again and again, emphasizing this fact that we simply need to remain within ISKCON and we can get access to this topmost Madhurya Prem that Srila Madhavendra Puri has introduced within our society. And therefore, this is the very special contribution of Madhavendra Puri within our Sampradaya, and we must recognize it and be grateful for it and feel fortunate that we are in this moment where we have access to this unlimited treasure of Krishna Prem. The other important lesson that we learn from the life of Srila Madhavendra Puri, as Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport to text 11 of the Adi Lila, 9th chapter of the Adi Lila, is Madhavendra Puri's relationship with his disciples. And so, again, this comes in more details in the Antya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Srila Madhavendra Puri's relationship with his two prominent disciples, that is Ishwara Puri and Ramchandra Puri, comes. And so, Ishwara Puri, by his service attitude towards his spiritual master in his final days, how he was serving Ishwara Puri in such a menial way, even cleaning the urine and stool. The result of that was that Madhavendra Puri was very pleased and he blessed him that may Krishna bless you. He was extremely pleased. Therefore, blessings come automatically when the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas are pleased, even without asking for blessings. Many times we are very eager and we ask for blessings, but then if we don't perform the services by which they are pleased, how will the blessings come? So therefore, the way to receive blessings is by the sincere service attitude. That was depicted by Srila Ishwara Puri. And Srila Prabhupada is writing that because of those blessings, then Ishwara Puri had such an exalted disciple as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In contrast to that, there was the other disciple, Ramchandra Puri. And what was his attitude towards his spiritual master? So we will read something again from the Antya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is Antya Lila, chapter 8, text 18. Formerly, when Madhavendra Puri was at the last stage of his life, Ramchandra Puri came to where he was staying. Text 19. Puri Gosai kare Krishna nama sankirtana, Mathura na paino bali kare na krandana. So this was, as we just discussed, so that was the poem that he was singing. Madhavendra Puri was chanting the holy name of Krishna, and sometimes he would cry, "Oh my Lord, I did not get shelter at Mathura." रामचंद्र पुरी तबे उपदेश तारे, शिष्य होय गुरु के कहे भय नाहि करे. Then Ramchandra Puri was so foolish that he fearlessly dared to instruct his spiritual master. So Ramchandra Puri, he appeared to be fearless, but his fearlessness was foolish. He thought he could instruct his spiritual master fearlessly, but that was simply out of foolishness. He dared to instruct his spiritual master. And what instruction did he give? Tumi purna brahmananda karah smarana, brahmavita hoy kene karah rodana. If you are in full transcendental bliss, he said, you should now remember only Brahman. Why are you crying? So this was the instruction which Ramchandra Puri gave to Madhvendra Puri. So as Prabhupada writes in the purport, he says, not knowing why Madhvendra Puri was crying, Ramchandra Puri tried to become his advisor. Thus he committed a great offense, for a disciple should never try to instruct his spiritual master. Text 22. Shuni Madhvendra mane krodha upajila, dura dura papishta bhali bharsna karila. Hearing this instruction, Madhvendra Puri, greatly angry, rebuked him by saying, get out, you sinful rascal. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Ramchandra Puri could not understand that his spiritual master Madhvendra Puri was feeling transcendental separation. His lamentation was not material. Rather, it proceeded from the highest stage of ecstatic love of Krishna. When he was crying in separation, I could not achieve Krishna, I could not reach Mathura, this was not ordinary material lamentation. Ramchandra Puri was not sufficiently expert to understand the feelings of Madhvendra Puri, but nevertheless he thought himself very advanced. Therefore, regarding Madhvendra Puri's expressions as ordinary material lamentation, he advised him to remember Brahman because he was latently an impersonalist. Madhvendra Puri understood Ramchandra Puri's position as a great fool and therefore immediately rebuked him. Such a reprimand from the spiritual master is certainly for the betterment of the disciple. So here we find Ramchandra Puri, he could not understand the mood of his spiritual master, and therefore he was giving some foolish instruction. Therefore, a very important point for us is that it is very important for us to recognize the mood and mission of the spiritual master, the mood and mission of the Acharya. And so if we foolishly think that we know better, then we may also land into a similar position as Ramchandra Puri. So that's what we were explaining, that it is very important for us to understand what Srila Prabhupada has given us, what Srila Prabhupada represents, and what is his mood and mission. This must be very clearly understood. So if we don't understand, and we think that Srila Prabhupada has not given enough, Srila Prabhupada has left something, if we think like that, then we also may land up into trouble because of not properly understanding the mood and mission of our own Acharya. And the result will be that we may simply become offensive and degrade our own spiritual life. Therefore here, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that Madhvendra Puri's mood, why he was crying, it was feelings of separation, not material lamentation. But not understanding that, Ramchandra Puri was trying to advise him. And then Madhvendra Puri says, Krishna na painu mathura, apana dukke maro edite aila jwala. O my Lord Krishna, I could not reach you, nor could I reach your abode Mathura. I am dying in my unhappiness, and now this rascal has come to give me more pain. And then he says, More mukha na dekabhi tui yao yati tati, tore deki maile mora habe asad gati. Don't show your face to me. Go anywhere else you like. If I die seeing your face, I shall not achieve the destination of my life. Krishna na paino mui maro apnara duke more brahma upadeshe eichara murkhe. I am dying without achieving the shelter of Krishna, and therefore I am greatly unhappy. Now this condemned foolish rascal has come to instruct me about Brahman. Ye Shri Madhvendra Shripad Upeksha Karila Sei Aprada Ihara Vasana Janmila. Ramchandra Puri was thus denounced by Madhvendra Puri. Due to his offense, gradually material desires appeared within him. And Prabhupada explains that the word vasana, material desires, refers to dry speculative knowledge. Such speculative knowledge is only material. And then Prabhupada is further describing that even though one is liberated in this life, if one offends the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he falls down in the midst of material desires, of which dry speculation about spiritual realization is one. And then again he's quoting from the Laghu Toshni commentary by Jiva Goswami saying, even if one is liberated in this life, he becomes addicted to material desires because of offenses to the Supreme Personality of Godheads. And then again he's quoting from the Vishnu Bhakti Chandrodaya, where he says, even liberated souls sometimes fall down to material desires, but those who fully engage in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not affected by such desires. These are references from authoritative revealed scriptures. If one becomes an offender to his spiritual master or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he falls down to the material platform to merely speculate. Once a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he, due to misunderstandings of the philosophy and being contaminated by other association, he wanted to take re-initiation from another Babaji. He came to Srila Prabhupada and was requesting Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, I am planning to take initiation again from such and such person. Please give me your blessings. Srila Prabhupada said, I give you blessings to go to hell. So, therefore, the important point is that one must carefully understand what our own acharya, what our own spiritual masters represent, and be loyal and stick to our own sampradaya. Because within our own sampradaya, within what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada is giving us, they are giving us the highest, the topmost realization of love of God. And therefore, understanding these facts is very important, and that is what we understand from the life of Srila Madhvendra Puri. In the few minutes that we have left, we'll briefly touch upon the other personalities. From the life of Srila Srinivas Acharya, we learn a very important principle that even though in practices of devotional service, one may go through so many challenges, so many difficulties, so many obstacles, but still one never gives up the devotional service. One never gives up the service to the Lord and the spiritual master. So as many of you may be aware of the story, but we'll briefly revise how Srila Srinivas Acharya, his parents, Balabhadra Bhattacharya and Lakshmi Priya, they were great devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For many years they did not have a child. They went to Jagannath Puri to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu understood their desire that they wanted a child who would be a great devotee. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Govinda, his personal servant, that I know why these devotees have, what they have prayed in front of Lord Jagannath. I know that. So you tell them that very soon a child will be born who will be a great devotee. He should be named as Srinivas, and he'll become a great devotee of the Lord. So already Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had predicted, he named him, and thus Srinivas was born to this couple. Later on, Srinivas Acharya, he took Shiksha from Narhari Sarkar, and Narhari Sarkar then instructed him to go to Puri to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Srinivas Acharya, he set out to go to Puri, but then as he reached the outskirts of Puri, he learned that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has ended his pastimes in this world. And Srinivas Acharya immediately, he fainted, he fell unconscious, he fell into so much of disappointment and lamentation in separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then Mahaprabhu appeared in a vision and told him to learn the Srimad Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit. And so then he goes to Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit was in a state of great lamentation, feeling separation from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Mahaprabhu, of course, had already instructed Gadadhar Pandit to teach Srimad Bhagavatam to Srinivas Acharya. So Gadadhar Pandit, when he met Srinivas Acharya, he was very happy. Why? Because he could now fulfill the instruction which he received from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A devotee is very enthusiastic to fulfill the instructions of the Lord. That we learn from all these personalities, Madhavendra Puri, Srinivas, all these personalities we learn, how they were so enthusiastic to follow the instructions of the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master. So, but Gadadhar Pandit says, I cannot teach you Srimad Bhagavatam because the ink of the Srimad Bhagavatam has been erased by the tears of love of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and myself. So therefore you have to get another copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now of course if we want to get another copy, it is very easy. Here there's BBT, you can easily get another copy. But those days it was not like that. So another copy had to be written by a Brahmana, and then it had to be, one could get. So Gadadhar Pandit, he sent a message to Narhari Sarkar to send another copy. Narhari Sarkar says, fortunately another copy is already available. So you send someone who can take it. So Gadadhar Pandit sends Srinivas Acharya to get the copy of Bhagavatam. So he goes all the way, everything is walking. All the travel is walking, there is no other means. So everything would take many months. So then he went, he got the copy of Bhagavatam. By the time he returned back to Jagannath Puri, Gadadhar Pandit had left. Again he felt he was in so much of lamentation, separation. Then Gadadhar Pandit, then at that time, it is, so then later on it is described how Mahaprabhu had actually instructed Rupa and Sanatan and Gopal Bhatta Goswamis to give shelter and training to Srinivas, even before Mahaprabhu left this world. So Rupa Goswami through Janma Mata had sent a message to Srinivas Acharya. And then Srinivas Acharya, then he sets down, he begins to go to Vrindavan. But before he goes to Vrindavan, he thinks of meeting all the associates of Mahaprabhu in Navdvip in his travels. And then so he meets many of the associates, spends many days, and of course the whole thing got delayed. And then any case, by the time he reaches Vrindavan, then he gets the message that Sanatan Goswami has left 4 months back, and 3 days back, even Rupa Goswami has left. And then again he feels so much separation, he is lamenting, but then again Rupa and Sanatan appear in a vision and tell him to take shelter of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And that's how Srinivas Acharya takes Diksha from Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And then one of the important contributions of Srinivas Acharya is, along with Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda Pandit, that was the first book distribution party, where they take all the books of the Goswamis, the original manuscripts, not photocopies, the original manuscripts of these most precious literatures of the Goswamis, they take from Bengal, from Vrindavan to Bengal, and on the way they were stolen by King Birambir at Vanavishnupur. And then of course Srinivas Acharya, he sends Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamanand Pandit ahead to Bengal and Orissa. He remains at Vanavishnupur, And then that's again a long story, how he meets the king. And then he gets the literatures back from the king. And not only that, but the king and the entire kingdom become Vaishnavas. And thus Srinivas Acharya, he did some amazing preaching in all these areas in Bengal. And every morning we are reciting the Shad Goswami Ashtakam, also written by Srila Srinivas Acharya. So this is something about Srila Srinivas Acharya. But the important lesson we learn is that how Srinivas Acharya, he never gave up. In spite of so many difficulties and challenges, he never gave up his service. He never gave up his determination to get back the Goswami literatures. And so this is the important lesson we can learn from the life of Srinivas Acharya. Regarding the appearance of Shri Shri Radharaman, we know that how on Narsim Chaturdashi day, Gopal Bhatta Goswami had a desire. So he only had 12 Shaligram Shilas, but one rich merchant had given many paraphernalia for decorating the deities, ornaments and clothes and other paraphernalia. And so he was thinking, but I only have Shaligram Shilas, I cannot use them. So he had a desire that just like Lord Narasimhadev emerged from the pillar, so similarly, if the Lord in a beautiful two-handed form would appear from one of the Shilas,